please. 911 emergency.
We need him. Police.
What's going on?
15th Street.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's blind. 6 years old.
How long ago was this?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory.
A 6-year-old beauty queen, a bright-eyed little girl, was found dead in her own family's home. The kind of thing you hear about but can never really believe could happen. The worst part, no one had a clue what had gone down. There was a ransom note left behind, but it was strange. The kind of strange that makes you feel uneasy, like there's something wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Of all of the evidence left behind, that ransom note is the most baffling. Number one, it is too damn long. A ransom note is not that long. A ransom note says, I have your child, I want $1 million, I'll call you later.
And the worst part of it all? That sweet little girl, supposedly kidnapped, was found right there in her own basement on the same day. It's like she never left the house at all. The note was there, but she was never taken anywhere. It didn't make any sense.
I knew instantly what I'd found. I'd found my daughter. She was lying on a white blanket. The blanket was wrapped around her. Hands were tied above her head. She had tape over her mouth. Immediately knelt down over her, felt her cheek, took the tape off immediately off her mouth. I tried to untie the cord that was around her arms. I couldn't get the knot untied. Picked her up, and I ran upstairs and laid her on the floor and still had a hope that she was alive.
No footprints outside in the snow, just a blanket of untouched ice, as if nobody had ever come near the house. No signs of anyone breaking in or out. It was almost as if some ghost had floated right over the frozen ground, slipping in and out without a trace. And the few footprints they did find, they didn't lead anywhere, and they didn't belong to anyone they could identify. The DNA didn't match anyone, not in the FBI database, not among the thousands of suspects they checked. Nothing. It was like they were chasing a shadow, something that wasn't really there. The whole thing was a mess of dead ends and unanswered questions.
Whoever killed JonBenét Ramsey walked down these stairs from the main floor to the basement. The killer turned right onto a small landing and then walked straight ahead to a room at the end of the hall. There was a plywood board here acting as a door. JonBenét's body was found in this room. It is roughed out concrete from floor to ceiling. Her mouth and wrists were wrapped in duct tape. There was a knotted rope around her neck.
A ransom note, a kidnapping that never left the house, and a crime scene that felt more like a twisted game than anything real. The kind of story that makes you question everything you know about safety, about family, about what people are capable of. And there, in that cold, dark basement, lay the tragic end of a little girl's story. A story that, even now, no one can fully understand. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey, at the time, was 6 years old. She was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta. Her parents named her after themselves. JonBenét Ramsey, her father, a multi-millionaire businessman, and Patricia Ramsey, her mother, whom everyone called Patsy. Patsy had her own claim to fame, too. She had been crowned Miss West Virginia back in 1977. The Ramseys were a family that had everything: money, status, a beautiful home. They seemed like they had it all.
By all accounts, they were a happy couple. Patsy was a high society woman.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a wife and a mother. John used to just tell people that I invested in futures, the futures of my children. That's how I usually answer my occupation.
John and Patsy Ramsey had 2 children together. Their firstborn was Burke, 9 years old, and JonBenét, 6 and a half, in kindergarten.
My name is John Andrew Ramsey, JonBenét's half-brother. JonBenét was just an energetic and fun kid.
In 1991, John's business, Access Graphics, merged with Lockheed Martin, and the family moved to Boulder, Colorado with their 2 kids, JonBenét and her older brother, Burke. The house they settled into was huge, a brick mansion in a quiet college town about 30 miles from Denver. It was a place that spoke of comfort and wealth, with enough room for all the laughter and love a family could want. But JonBenét had more family than just Burke. She also had 3 older half-siblings from her dad's first marriage, Elizabeth, who tragically died in a car accident in 1992, and Melinda and John Andrew, who were both adults by the time JonBenét was born. They didn't live in Colorado, but they were still a part of her life in their own ways. As for JonBenét, she was an outgoing child, and she loved the spotlight. Patsy entered her into beauty pageants all over the country. By the time she was 6, JonBenét had already won a string of titles: Little Miss Colorado, America's Royal Miss, National Tiny Miss Beauty. Her list of accomplishments was impressive for someone so young. She had that spark, that bright smile, those glittery costumes that caught everyone's eye. She was a star in her own right, and she loved every moment of it.
She was very proud that she was named after me. My name is JonBenét Ramsey. She just had this effervescent personality, just like Patsy. I mean, just ta-da, here I am, you know.
At home, she was just a regular kid, going to kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School. Her parents gave her everything she needed, a comfortable life and all the love in the world. They owned not just their $1 million home in Colorado, but also a vacation house in northern Michigan. The Ramseys lived well, and they made sure JonBenét and Burke did too. But maybe it was that wealth that made JonBenét a target. Maybe someone saw all that and wanted a piece of it, or maybe it was something darker, something that didn't make any sense at all. So, what happened in the morning of December 26, 1996? The Ramseys were getting ready for a trip, packing up for a vacation, but something was horribly wrong. As John and Patsy made their way through the house, they found something that stopped them cold: a ransom note. It was lying right there on the kitchen staircase.
You get up, you're dressed. What happens?
I went down our steps from our bedroom to the 2nd floor. Then I started walking down the spiral staircase. And as I came to the bottom of the stairs, there were 3 pages neatly laid across one of the runs of the stairway.
She picked up the note and she started to read it.
I just remember when I read, "We have your daughter," it just, this overwhelming fear.
And then?
Then I just screamed for John, screamed.
3 pages long, demanding $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. It warned them not to call the police. But when they realized their little girl was missing, Patsy did what any mother would do. She called the police.
Patsy Ramsey called 911 at 5:52 a.m., and the first officer from the Boulder Police Department arrives 3 minutes later at 5:55.
We called friends for help at that point. Your daughter is gone.
Desperate.
She's in the hands of a madman.
My phone rang. "Pam, they've got her." "What do you mean they've got her?" "They've kidnapped JonBenét. She's gone."
The house turned into chaos after that. Family, friends, and police started searching, hoping they'd find JonBenét somewhere safe. But the note itself was strange. Long, detailed, almost like someone was trying too hard. It was almost like some sort of twisted movie script. It was even written on paper from inside the Ramsey house. And the amount, $118,000, was almost exactly what John had received as a bonus that year.
The ransom note asked for an odd figure, $118,000. That was a bonus that you had received.
Well, that was one of the theories that I came up with, that it was close to the net amount I'd received that year as a bonus. 118 means something to the killer. We know that. We believe that. Whether it's tied to my bonus or something only the killer knows, we don't know.
Did you know that your husband got this kind of a bonus?
Not at the time.
It felt staged, like someone wanted it to look like a kidnapping, but nothing quite added up. Handwriting experts tried to figure out who wrote it. At first, some thought it might have been Patsy, but they could never prove it. She denied it over and over, and experts believed her too. The note was just one more piece of a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve.
At least 4 experts, and 2 of them from the Secret Service, looked at the handwriting and said Patsy Ramsey did not write the note.
No evidence to indicate that Patsy Ramsey executed any of the questioned material appearing on the ransom note. Was that Mr. Dusick's conclusion?
Among other things.
And he was a document analyst for the United States Secret Service, right?
Right.
Hours dragged on like an eternity, each second heavier than the last. And then, in the middle of the chaos, John Ramsey made a discovery that shattered everything, something that no parent should ever have to witness. He found JonBenét's body in the basement, lying there as if the world had collapsed. She had been strangled, her skull fractured in a horrifying, brutal scene.
Well, when they got her to the autopsy table and opened up, her brain, they realized she'd been hit over the head.
She was hit in the head with a blow that left an 8-inch crack in her skull. Part of her skull caved in.
It was unbearable, unimaginable. John carried his little girl upstairs, as if trying to bring her back to the safety of the home she should never have left. The police swarmed the house. Investigators moved in and out. Flashing lights painted shadows on the walls, and the news spread like wildfire. The media descended in full force, and soon JonBenét's name was everywhere. Television screens, newspapers, every conversation. Everyone had their own theory, and no one was spared from suspicion. Strangers on the street, family friends, even JonBenét's parents themselves. They all found themselves under the microscope. The whispers grew louder, and soon, fingers were pointing at her friends, John and Patsy, and even her 9-year-old brother, Burke. The scrutiny was relentless, almost as if the entire country was trying to solve the mystery on their own.
She was the spark plug of our family. Because of this zest that she had, she just kept things alive and hopping. It's not the same without her.
Why is it so hard for people to understand that we love this child with everything in our being? We would never touch a hair on the head of one of our children. I mean, it just is inconceivable to me.
John and Patsy were already reeling from the loss of their daughter, and now they had to deal with the world questioning their every move, every tear, every word. The weight of grief and accusation hung over them, turning their home into a place of sadness and suspicion. It felt like they were trapped in a nightmare with no way out. They had lost their little girl, and now they were losing the life they once knew, piece by piece. The autopsy confirmed everyone's worst fears. JonBenet had been strangled with a garrote, a makeshift device made from a piece of cord and one of Patsy's paintbrushes. Her skull was fractured, a devastating injury that painted a horrifying picture of what she must have gone through. There were bruises all over her small body and clear signs of assault. It was a homicide, as plain and tragic as could be. But even with all the evidence, the questions just kept piling up. Why did this happen? How did this happen? And most importantly, who could have done such a monstrous thing to a child?
I mean, I appreciate being here. I appreciate it. It's very hard to be here, but it is a damn sight harder to be sitting at home in Atlanta, Georgia, wondering every second of every day what you guys are doing out here. You know, have you found anything? Are we any closer? Is the guy out here watching my house? You know, is my son safe? My life has been hell from that day forward. And I want nothing more than to find out who is responsible for this.
The investigation only deepened the confusion. Nothing seemed to make sense, and the more people tried to put the pieces together, the more elusive the truth became. The story of JonBenét Ramsey became one of the biggest mysteries of its time, a case that refused to be solved, full of heartbreak, suspicion, and unanswered questions. Now, regarding the investigation, it was full of mistakes right from the start. The Boulder police made some big errors that weakened the case a lot. They thought they were dealing with a kidnapping, so they didn't seal off the house as a crime scene right away. By the time they realized what they were really dealing with, it was too late. People had been in and out of the house all day, contaminating evidence. And when they first questioned John and Patsy, they didn't separate them. They let them stay together, which meant they could easily keep their story straight.
The police did a terrible, terrible job securing that scene. And if you don't secure the scene, you don't get good evidence.
The mistakes they made were outrageous, they were mystifying, they were mistake after mistake after mistake.
People were streaming through that house. They were in the kitchen, they were in the living room. There were some friends of Patsy's that were helping her wipe up the kitchen. There could have been fingerprints there.
You had friends that were Windexing the sink and washing dishes.
People were making toast in the kitchen. And yes, a kidnapping is a crime scene, but we were so focused on getting JonBenét back. That was the task.
What we have learned is that everyone should have been sequestered into an area so that people weren't roaming around the house.
Things got only messier. John found JonBenét's body, but instead of waiting for the police, he moved her. He took the duct tape off her mouth and carried her upstairs. It was a natural reaction for a father, but it made things harder for the investigation. Evidence was lost, and the scene was disturbed. The Ramseys offered a reward for any information that could help find out what happened, but soon enough, they found themselves under suspicion. People started looking at John and Patsy as possible suspects. The inconsistencies in their stories, the strange media appearances, the fact that the ransom note was written on their own paper, all of it added up in people's minds. There was also fiber evidence that linked Patsy to the scene. Fibers from her clothes matched those found on the duct tape used on JonBenét. It didn't look good for them.
It basically is an artist's paintbrush that's broken, and what's important is that it actually came from Patsy's art supply.
And there were even fibers on the backside of the duct tape that had been on JonBenét's mouth from Patsy's clothing.
And that was important, but Patsy lived in the house, so those could have been there anyway.
The police started thinking, well, maybe this is just a cover-up, that the Ramseys harmed their child some way, then panicked and tried to create basically a kidnapping scenario.
Burke, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, was also questioned a few times. The police saw him as an important witness, but the tabloids twisted things and made it seem like he might have been involved. In the midst of all of this, a local photographer named Stephen Miles even sued John Ramsey and a tabloid for defamation because they hinted he was involved. It was chaos, and the truth seemed to get lost in the noise. Then, in 1998, the case went before a grand jury. They looked at everything, even questioned Burke in secret. The media made it seem like Burke was the main suspect, but the district attorney came out and cleared his name. The grand jury ended up voting to indict John and Patsy for child abuse leading to JonBenét's death, but the district attorney decided not to prosecute. There just wasn't enough evidence. After that, the Ramseys moved back to Atlanta, trying to get away from the spotlight, but the suspicion followed them. They couldn't escape it. The questions, the rumors, the looks from strangers, it all stayed with them. As for the case, it also remained open. After passing 2 more years in 2000, the Ramseys decided to tell their side of the story. they released a memoir called The Death of Innocence. It was their way of letting people know what they had gone through, of trying to clear their names. Next, they did a strange thing. A year later, John filed an $80 million defamation lawsuit against the Boulder Police Department. A former detective had written a book accusing John and Patsy of being responsible for their daughter's death. The lawsuit got settled in 2002, but the damage had already been done. People still had doubts. Things got even harder for the Ramseys in the years that followed. Patsy, who had always been at the center of the public suspicion, got sick. In 2006, she passed away from ovarian cancer at just 49 years old. It was a huge blow for John. He had lost his wife, and by that time, he had also lost much of the fortune he once had. The success and wealth of the 1990s seemed like a distant memory. Finally, in 2008, there was some good news for the Ramsey family. New DNA testing showed that whoever killed JonBenét couldn't have been a family member. It cleared both John and Patsy officially. But even that didn't stop the rumors. People still wanted answers, and they wanted someone to blame. After years of staying quiet, Burke resurfaced in 2016. He went on the Dr. Phil show to break his silence about everything.
Did you hit your sister over the head with a baseball bat or a flashlight?
Absolutely not.
If someone in your house did, do you think you would have heard it?
Probably, yeah. What more do you need to stop looking at us and to start looking for the person who actually did it?
He still stood by his parents, insisting they had nothing to do with JonBenét's death. He even suggested that it was probably some stranger, maybe someone from the pageants, who had attacked his sister. But just as Burke spoke out, a new documentary came out that same year. It was called The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, and it suggested that Burke might have been responsible for what happened. It stirred everything up again. True crime fans jumped on the theory, and Burke found himself in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. He ended up suing CBS for $750 million, saying the documentary ruined his reputation. That same year, though, more questions popped up. It turned out that the DNA evidence that had cleared the Ramseys in 2008 wasn't as clear as everyone thought. The sample had mixed genetic profiles, making it hard to draw any firm conclusions. The investigation checked more samples, looked into more suspects, and even tapped into the FBI database, but still, no clear answers. Over the years, the story of JonBenét's murder has been told again and again. Books, documentaries, TV shows, everyone seemed to have a theory. Outside of the Ramsey family, other names kept coming up. There was Gary Olivia, a convicted child predator. Linda Hoffman Pugh, the family's housekeeper, also found herself under suspicion. Michael Helguth, an electrician who lived nearby, and even Bill McReynolds, the man who played Santa at a Christmas party, were looked at. But none of them were ever charged. The case remained a tangled web of dead ends and shattered lives. So, after all these years, there was still hope that maybe, just maybe, someone could solve the case. In December 2023, the Boulder Police Department took a new step. They brought in a panel of outside experts, the Colorado Cold Case Review Team. The goal was to bring fresh eyes and fresh ideas. Maybe updated technology could finally make sense of what happened. This cold case review team was made up of people from all over: investigators, forensic experts, and analysts. There were folks from the FBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and even local experts from the Boulder County District Attorney's Office. They spent a whole year just getting ready for this review, putting all the pieces together. They digitized everything, every bit of evidence, every report, all of it. They created a massive, searchable database. Over 21,000 tips, more than 1,000 interviews, and samples from over 200 people. Handwriting, DNA, fingerprints, shoe prints. All of it was right there in one place. It was a mountain of information. 40,000 reports, over 1 million pages, all about JonBenét. They made a new inventory of all the evidence and took a fresh look at everything they had. The FBI helped out with that too. It wasn't an easy task, but it was necessary. They wanted to make sure nothing was missed and that every clue was followed up on. They knew the stakes. They knew that after all these years, JonBenét deserved justice. Right now, the Boulder Police and District Attorney are looking at all the recommendations from that review team. They're deciding what steps to take next. They're keeping it quiet for now, not sharing the details. They want to protect the integrity of the investigation, but they're not giving up. They're following every lead, every tip, trying to get closer to the truth. DNA testing is still at the heart of it all. The technology keeps getting better, and the police are working with top DNA experts across the country. They want to use the latest techniques to test the remaining samples. They're being careful, making sure that when they do test it, the results are accurate and reliable. They're preparing the evidence, keeping it ready for when the time is right. It's been a long road, and the answers are still out there somewhere. Maybe this new effort will bring them closer. Maybe one day there will be a breakthrough and JonBenét's story will finally have an ending. Until then, the search for the truth goes on, and the memory of a little girl who once lit up every room she walked into stays alive in the hearts of many. Last but not least, if anyone out there knows anything at all that might help solve this case, please reach out to the authorities. You can contact the Boulder Police Department tip line at 303-441-1974 or send an email to bouldersmostwanted@bouldercolorado.gov. Every bit of information could make a difference. Every lead could bring us one step closer to the truth. And that's where we leave this story for now. A case that has haunted us for years. A mystery that still needs answers. If you want to stay with us as we keep searching for those answers, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it insightful, and share it with others who want to see justice for JonBenét. We thank you for watching, for caring, and for remembering JonBenét. Together, maybe one day, we'll finally get the answers we need.